Behind the walls of this isolated farmhouse in Plainfield, Wisconsin, a horrific story unfolded, a story so disturbing that it would inspire one of the most terrifying films in cinematic history, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But the true story of Ed Gein, the man behind the horrors, is even more unsettling than the film it inspired. Born in 1906, Edward Theodore Gein grew up under the shadow of his overbearing mother, Augusta. A religious fanatic, Augusta preached to her sons about the sinfulness of women, instilling in Ed a deep-seated fear and confusion about sexuality and relationships. His father, George, was an alcoholic, and their family life was far from normal. Ed and his brother Henry were isolated from society, with Augusta forbidding them from having any friends. After the deaths of his father, brother, and eventually his mother, Ed was left completely alone in the family farmhouse. It was after his mother's passing in 1945 that Ed's mental state began to deteriorate, leading to one of the most shocking and macabre series of discoveries in American criminal history. On November 16, 1957, Plainfield hardware store owner Bernice Worden went missing. Suspicion quickly fell on the town's odd, reclusive resident, Ed Gein. When police searched Gein's home, they stumbled upon a nightmare that would forever scar the small Wisconsin town. Inside the farmhouse, authorities discovered not just Bernice Worden's decapitated body, but a grisly collection of human remains. Gein had been exhuming corpses from local graveyards for years, using body parts to craft items such as furniture, masks, and clothing. He had fashioned lampshades and bowls from human skin and skulls, and his most chilling creation, a woman's suit made from the skin of his female victims. Gein confessed to killing two women, Bernice Worden and Mary Hogan, a local tavern owner who had disappeared in 1954. He claimed that most of his grotesque artifacts were made from bodies he dug up from nearby cemeteries, but his obsession with creating his woman's suit was driven by a twisted desire to become his mother. While Gein's victim count was relatively low compared to other notorious serial killers, the horrifying nature of his crimes shocked the nation. Gein was declared legally insane and spent the rest of his life in a mental institution where he died in 1984. Ed Gein's story resonated far beyond the quiet town of Plainfield. His macabre actions became the inspiration for several horror films, the most famous being the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. While the film's plot differs significantly from Gein's real-life story, many elements were drawn from the chilling details of Gein's crimes. Leatherface, the film's iconic killer, wears a mask made of human skin, an unmistakable nod to Gein's grotesque fashion choices.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
It's sad when a mother has to speak the words that condemn her own son.
Gein's influence extends beyond the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. His disturbing legacy also inspired the character of Norman Bates in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho and Buffalo Bill in The Silence of the Lambs. These characters, like Gein, were deeply impacted by the control of a domineering mother figure, and all share a chilling fascination with skin and death. The story of Ed Gein is a reminder of the darkness that can exist in the most unexpected places. The quiet, unassuming town of Plainfield could not have imagined the horrors hidden behind the walls of Ed Gein's farmhouse. Today, his story lives on in the nightmares of those who hear it, and through the terrifying characters he inspired on the big screen.
Skies whisper cold, ghostly whispers old, distant footsteps echo, shadows start to grow. Wind howls through the night, moon hides from the sight, leaves rustle and shiver, chilling through the river. In the shadows we hide, eerie presence at our side. Whispers linger in the dark, frightening tales leave a mark. Eyes in the forest glow, mysteries they know. Invisible forces near, whispers in your ear. In the shadows we hide, eerie presence at our side. Whispers linger in the dark, frightening tales leave a mark. Feel the cold dread creep in the silence deep, lost in haunted dreams, echoes of silent screams. Feel the cold dread creep in the silence deep, lost in haunted dreams, echoes of silent screams.
Welcome to Unmasking Horror, a video series where I explore the dark intersection of true crime and the paranormal. I'm your host, Simon Stringer, and today we're diving into one of the most infamous cases in American history, the Amityville Horror, part gruesome crime, part supernatural legend. The story behind 112 Ocean Avenue has both fascinated and terrified people for decades. We'll begin by looking at the real-life horror that took place in the quiet town of Amityville, New York, and then uncover how a paranormal investigation turned it into one of the most enduring ghost stories of all time. But first, let's talk about what happened in 1974 when the haunting truly began, not with spirits but with murder. The murders at 112 Ocean Avenue. In the early hours of November 13, 1974, 23-year-old Ronald DeFeo Jr. took a rifle and systematically murdered 6 members of his family as they slept. His parents, Ronald Sr. and Louise, and his 4 younger siblings, Dawn, Allison, Mark, and John, were all shot and killed in their beds. This was no ordinary family tragedy. The brutality of the crime shocked the small, tight-knit community of Amityville. Ronald Jr. initially claimed that the murders were carried out by a mob hitman, but his story quickly unraveled. He later confessed to the killings, but his reasons were confusing, inconsistent. He claimed he heard voices that drove him to kill, and some have speculated that drugs or a psychotic break could have been involved. In the trial that followed, his defense attorney argued for an insanity plea, citing the voices DeFeo claimed to have heard. However, the jury found him guilty of second-degree murder, and he was sentenced to 6 consecutive life terms. The gruesome DeFeo murders could have simply been the sad end to a story of family dysfunction, But the events that followed would give rise to something much more sinister and much harder to explain. The Lutz family and the paranormal infamy. Just over a year after the DeFeo murders, in December 1975, George and Kathy Lutz moved into the home at 112 Ocean Avenue with their 3 children. They thought they had found their dream house, especially for the price they paid, $80,000 for a massive Dutch colonial in a charming suburban neighborhood. But what the Lutz family didn't know was that they were stepping into what would become one of the most notorious haunted houses in America. From the first night, strange occurrences began to unfold. George Lutz reported waking up at 3:15 a.m. every night, the exact time the DeFeo murders occurred. The family claimed they heard strange noises, saw eerie apparitions, and witnessed objects moving on their own. The children complained of being tormented by unseen forces, and Kathy Lutz claimed to have levitated above her bed. In one of the most bizarre claims, George said he would see a pair of glowing red eyes staring through the windows at night. The family also reported strange smells, cold spots in rooms, and green slime oozing from the walls. After just 28 days in the home, the Lutz family fled in terror, leaving behind all of their belongings. Their story quickly attracted media attention, and it didn't take long for the house to become a paranormal hotspot. But were these events real, or was it all an elaborate hoax? The paranormal investigation. In February 1976, just a few months after the Lutz family fled, famed paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren were called to investigate the Amityville house. Ed, a demonologist, and Lorraine, a clairvoyant and medium, were no strangers to haunted places, but they said Amityville was unlike anything they had ever encountered. During their investigation, Lorraine reportedly sensed a powerful and malevolent presence in the house. She claimed that the demonic energy in the home was linked to the land itself, suggesting that something evil predated the DeFeo murders. In one of the most famous images from the investigation, a photograph taken by the Warrens' team appeared to show a ghostly child peering from behind a doorway. This Amityville ghost boy became one of the most enduring pieces of evidence for believers. The Warrens concluded that the house was haunted by a demonic force, and they warned future residents to stay away. Despite this, debates over the validity of the Lutz's story raged on, with skeptics pointing out that many of the supernatural claims could not be corroborated by evidence. Over the years, George Lutz maintained that the experiences were real, though some neighbors and later residents reported no unusual activity in the house. Fact versus fiction. So, what really happened at 112 Ocean Avenue? It's hard to say for sure. The DeFeo murders are a matter of record. 6 lives were tragically taken, and Ronald DeFeo Jr. spent the rest of his life behind bars. But the haunting? That's where the lines between fact and fiction blur. Many have accused the Lutz family of fabricating the paranormal events to profit from the tragedy. The story was eventually turned into The Amityville Horror, both a best-selling book and a blockbuster film, which undoubtedly contributed to the lore surrounding the house. Skeptics argue that the Lutz's experiences could have been exaggerated or entirely invented for financial gain. On the other hand, the sheer number of paranormal claims, witnessed by not just the Lutz family but also the Warrens and others, makes it difficult to dismiss the story outright. Whether you believe in the supernatural or think the whole thing was a clever hoax, the story of the Amityville Horror continues to captivate audiences around the world. The Amityville house still stands, though it's changed owners many times over the years. Its address was even altered to deter curious tourists. But the questions remain. Is the house truly cursed by a dark supernatural force, or was it simply a home marred by the tragedy of the DeFeo family? Thanks for joining us on this journey through the chilling case of Amityville. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, there's no denying that this story leaves a lasting impression. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for more true crime stories that touch the supernatural. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe. Hidden among the ivy-covered tombstones and towering Gothic monuments of Highgate Cemetery lies one of England's most terrifying legends, the Highgate Vampire. In the early 1970s, London was gripped by a wave of fear as reports of a mysterious vampire terrorizing Highgate Cemetery began to surface. The story not only sparked a media frenzy but also inspired books, films, and ongoing debates about what really happened within these haunted grounds. The story of the Highgate Vampire began in 1969 when two young women walking through the cemetery claimed to have seen a tall, dark figure with glowing red eyes. Soon, others reported strange happenings in and around Highgate Cemetery, phantom sightings, unexplained cold spots, and even sightings of the same sinister figure. The sightings reached a fever pitch when Sean Manchester, a self-proclaimed vampire hunter, and David Farrant, a paranormal investigator, took a particular interest in the case. Manchester claimed the creature was a vampire, one that he believed had been brought to England in the 18th century and now rested in Highgate Cemetery. On the other hand, David Farrant, who took a more skeptical approach, believed the sightings were linked to occult rituals being conducted in the area. The two men soon became embroiled in a public rivalry, each convinced of their own theory. The legend took a dramatic turn in March 1970 when Manchester announced that he would lead an official vampire hunt at Highgate Cemetery. Hundreds of curious onlookers gathered outside the gates that night, hoping to catch a glimpse of the vampire, or at least the spectacle. Manchester claimed he found and destroyed the vampire in a secret ceremony that involved driving a stake through its heart. However, skeptics argued that no conclusive evidence of a vampire was ever found. Regardless of what truly happened, the legend of the Highgate Vampire had a lasting effect. As hysteria grew, grave robbing and vandalism plagued the cemetery, with some suggesting that misguided vampire hunters were responsible for the desecrations. The bizarre events at Highgate Cemetery soon captured the imagination of filmmakers and authors. One of the most notable films inspired by the legend is The Vampire Lovers, a 1970 horror film that helped to cement the Highgate Vampire's place in pop culture. Though The Vampire Lovers wasn't a direct retelling of the Highgate story, its themes of ancient vampires rising from the grave certainly drew from the fear sparked by the real-life reports. Another film, Dracula A.D. 1972, also played into the zeitgeist of the time, with its gothic horror aesthetics mirroring the setting of Highgate Cemetery. The legend of the Highgate Vampire has endured in modern times, with documentaries, books, and podcasts continuing to explore the mysterious events. To this day, paranormal investigators visit Highgate, hoping to find evidence of something supernatural. The truth about the Highgate Vampire is elusive. Some believe the sightings were fueled by mass hysteria, while others insist that something otherworldly resides in the cemetery. It could be a vampire, or something else entirely. Whether the Highgate Vampire was real or merely a product of collective imagination, one thing is certain. The story has become a permanent part of Highgate Cemetery's eerie legacy. The Highgate Vampire, legend, hoax, or nightmare made real, the truth remains buried in the shadows of the cemetery.
Dark skies whisper cold, ghostly whispers old, distant footsteps echo, shadows start to grow, wind howls through the night.
In 1977, a small house in Enfield, England became the center of one of the most terrifying paranormal cases in history, the Enfield Poltergeist, a case that shook the world, intrigued skeptics, and inspired some of the most popular horror movies ever made.
Did you die in this house? Did you pass on?
Peggy was on her own, so she came in to us, because it wasn't her, she came in. We sat together and we heard it.
It all began when Peggy Hodgson, a single mother of 4, started experiencing strange happenings in her home. What seemed like simple knocking sounds quickly escalated into something far more disturbing. Furniture moved by itself, strange voices echoed through the house, and two of Peggy's children, Janet and Margaret, became the focal points of an otherworldly presence.
How does it feel to be haunted by a poltergeist?
It's not haunted. Shut up.
It came off the floor, or nearly a ½ inch, I should say, and I saw it slide off to the right, about 3.5 to 4 feet before it came to rest.
What about the voices? When did the voices start?
December 12th.
Or anything of that kind.
The welfare of people at the centre of poltergeist activity is very important. Poltergeist activity is actually caused by very high levels of stress.
Janet, only 11 years old at the time, was reportedly possessed by the entity, often speaking in a deep, gravelly voice that was entirely unlike her own.
Just before you died and just after you died?
Days before I died, I went blind. Then I had an hemorrhage, and I fell asleep, and I died in a chair in the corner downstairs.
The poltergeist seemed to communicate through her, claiming to be a man named Bill Wilkins, who had died in the house years earlier. As the disturbances worsened, paranormal investigators Maurice Grosse and Guy Lyon Playfair from the Society for Psychical Research were called in. Over the course of more than a year, the investigators witnessed levitations, objects flying across the room, and strange knocking sounds. But the most chilling evidence came from audio recordings of Janet speaking in a voice that didn't belong to her. Despite the compelling evidence, the case was heavily scrutinized. Skeptics claimed the incidents were fabrications, and even Janet herself later admitted that some of the occurrences were exaggerated. But she also insisted that the majority of what happened was real, and something she could never explain. The Enfield poltergeist remains one of the most well-documented paranormal cases in history, with over 30 witnesses, including police officers, neighbors, and journalists, reporting strange phenomena. While no one could definitively prove whether it was real or a hoax, the case left a lasting mark on the paranormal community. The chilling events of Enfield didn't just remain in the history books, they captured the imagination of filmmakers and inspired several movies and TV series. The most famous portrayal came in 2016's The Conjuring 2, directed by James Wan, where Ed and Lorraine Warren, paranormal investigators from the United States, were featured investigating the Enfield case, though in reality, their involvement was brief. The movie took creative liberties, of course, adding demonic elements and twisting the story for Hollywood's purposes, but The Conjuring 2 wasn't the only depiction. The Enfield poltergeist was also explored in the 2015 British miniseries The Enfield Haunting, which focused more on the relationship between Maurice Grosse and the Hodgson family. Both versions reflect how deeply the Enfield poltergeist case impacted popular culture and the paranormal genre, leaving people questioning what really happened inside that small home on Green Street. Even today, paranormal enthusiasts visit Enfield, drawn to the mystery of what occurred there over 40 years ago. Was it all an elaborate hoax? Or did something truly supernatural haunt the Hodgson family? What do you think? Was the Enfield poltergeist a case of misunderstood phenomena, or did something beyond our understanding manifest in that quiet suburban home? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more chilling paranormal stories.
Moonlight's fading fast, haunting echoes last. In the night we tread.
In July 1947, a mysterious event took place in the deserts of Roswell, New Mexico, that would spark decades of conspiracy theories, government investigations, and countless movies and TV shows. But what really happened here? Was it truly a UFO or just a military cover-up? Let's dive deep into the Roswell incident and find out. On July 8, 1947, the Roswell Army Airfield issued a press release claiming they had recovered a flying disc that had crashed near a ranch in Roswell. This sparked media frenzy, with newspapers running sensational headlines about a UFO. But just one day later, the story changed. The military quickly retracted their statement, claiming the wreckage was from a weather balloon, not a flying saucer. The official explanation? It was part of a secret project known as Project Mogul, a top-secret operation by the U.S. military to detect Soviet nuclear tests using high-altitude balloons. But this explanation didn't sit well with everyone. Witnesses claimed to have seen strange debris, metallic materials that didn't resemble any weather balloon. Some even reported seeing alien bodies.
Where did the debris go? Where did it end up?
It took the bodies to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
While the government may have closed the case, Hollywood wasn't ready to let it go. The Roswell incident inspired a wave of movies and television series, each adding their own twist to the story. Movies like The Roswell Incident and Independence Day capitalized on the growing UFO fascination, blending fact with fiction. Meanwhile, TV shows like Roswell turned the event into a more personal narrative, focusing on young aliens trying to blend into human society. To this day, the Roswell incident remains one of the most debated events in UFO history. Was it a case of mistaken identity? Or are we still being kept in the dark about what really happened in 1947? While skeptics point to Project Mogul, believers say the evidence of a UFO crash is undeniable. Whether you believe the official story or think there's more to it, one thing is certain: Roswell will forever remain at the center of UFO lore. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into the mysteries of the unknown. And remember to watch the skies. You never know what you may see.
Shadows on the wall, whispers from the past.
In 1692, the quiet town of Salem, Massachusetts became the scene of one of the most infamous chapters in American history. Fear, superstition, and paranoia tore the community apart, leading to the execution of 20 innocent people. This is the story of the Salem witch trials.
Shadows on the wall, whispers from the past. In the night they call, how long will this last? Torches in the street.
In the late 1600s, the Puritans of New England lived under strict religious rule. Isolated from the outside world, they believed the devil was ever present, waiting to corrupt their godly society. The fear of witchcraft wasn't new to the Puritans. For years, Europe had been ravaged by witch hunts that resulted in the deaths of tens of thousands. But in 1692, the terror arrived in the New World. It began with a group of young girls in Salem Village, Betty Paris, Abigail Williams, and others, who started behaving erratically, suffering from violent fits, convulsions, and uncontrollable outbursts. Unable to explain their behavior, the town's leaders believed the girls had been afflicted by witchcraft. Under intense pressure, the girls claimed they were victims of witches living among them. The first to be accused were 3 women: Tituba, an enslaved woman in the Paris household; Sarah Good, a homeless beggar; and Sarah Osborne, an elderly, bedridden woman. These women were easy targets, outsiders in the rigid Puritan society. During her interrogation, Tituba confessed to practicing witchcraft, likely out of fear for her life. She claimed that other witches were hiding in Salem and working with the devil to destroy the town. This confession only fueled the hysteria. As the panic spread, more and more people were accused. Friends turned on friends, neighbors accused neighbors. Anyone who spoke out against the trials risked being accused themselves. In total, More than 200 people were accused of witchcraft over the next few months. The trials were a brutal spectacle. Despite the flimsy evidence, mostly based on spectral sightings, dreams, and hearsay, 19 people were hanged on Gallows Hill, and one man, Giles Corey, was pressed to death with heavy stones for refusing to enter a plea. Among those executed were Rebecca Nurse, an elderly and respected member of the community, and John Proctor, who had vocally opposed the trials. Their deaths sent shockwaves through Salem, but the executions continued. As the hysteria grew, more prominent members of society began to question the legitimacy of the trials. Governor William Phipps eventually intervened, halting the trials in 1693 after his own wife was accused of witchcraft. By then, the damage had been done. 20 people had lost their lives, and hundreds more had their reputations ruined. Years later, the colony admitted the trials were a mistake, and restitution was offered to the victims' families. But for those who lived through it, the scars ran deep. The Salem witch trials remain a powerful cautionary tale of the dangers of mass hysteria, scapegoating, and the breakdown of justice. Today, Salem embraces its tragic history with museums, memorials, and reenactments that keep the memory of the victims alive. The Salem witch trials continue to resonate because they highlight how fear and superstition can lead to devastating consequences. It's a reminder that we must always guard against injustice, no matter the time period. The trials have become a symbol of the dangers of paranoia and the willingness to sacrifice reason in the name of fear. Their legacy lives on in literature, film, and popular culture. Arthur Miller's play The Crucible is one of the most famous dramatizations of the Salem witch trials, using the events as an allegory for the Red Scare and McCarthyism in the 1950s. The trials have also inspired countless films, books, and TV shows, all exploring themes of fear, persecution, and moral panic. From historical documentaries to modern horror films, the Salem witch trials remain a powerful subject for storytelling, reminding us of the fine line between justice and tyranny. The Salem witch trials are more than just a dark chapter in American history. They are a reflection of humanity's eternal struggle with fear, ignorance, and power. Their lessons are as relevant today as they were over 300 years ago.
Shadows on the wall, whispers from the past. In the night they call, how long will this last?
Have you ever heard of the Mothman, a mysterious creature that has haunted the town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia for decades? It's one of America's most enduring urban legends. But what is the truth behind the legend? What investigations were conducted? And how has this story inspired films and popular culture? Today, we dive deep into the mystery of the Mothman.
Mrs. Foster, what was the first thing that you saw?
Well, I heard before I saw anything. I was standing right here in my kitchen preparing dinner, and my two boys came out the back door down the steps to get their bicycles. They got down to the bottom of the steps here, and they started screaming. We heard this terrible boom, and my boys looked around and saw the bridge starting to fall.
The story of the Mothman begins in November 1966. Two young couples from Point Pleasant reported seeing a large winged creature with glowing red eyes near an abandoned TNT plant. Over the next year, hundreds of people came forward with similar sightings, claiming to have encountered a giant human-like figure with wings who seemed to appear at random, always with those piercing red eyes. But the mystery doesn't stop there. In December of 1967, tragedy struck Point Pleasant. The Silver Bridge, which connected the town to Ohio, collapsed during rush hour, killing 46 people. Many believe that the Mothman sightings were an omen, a warning of the disaster to come. So, was there ever a real investigation into the Mothman? Law enforcement initially dismissed the sightings as mass hysteria or a misidentification of local wildlife like large owls or sandhill cranes, but local authorities weren't the only ones looking into it. Enter John Keel, an investigative journalist and UFO enthusiast. Keel visited Point Pleasant to document the phenomenon. He interviewed eyewitnesses, gathered reports of strange phone calls, and even linked the Mothman to other paranormal activity in the area, including UFO sightings. Keel's research became the foundation for his 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies, which cemented the creature's place in paranormal lore. But it wasn't just Keel. Many other paranormal investigators have continued to search for answers, trying to determine if the Mothman is a real cryptid, a spirit, or simply a figment of our collective imagination. The Mothman legend didn't just stay in Point Pleasant. Hollywood took notice, and in 2002, The Mothman Prophecies hit theaters. Starring Richard Gere and Laura Linney, the film was based on Keel's book and portrayed the Mothman as an eerie, otherworldly entity that seemed to predict catastrophes. The film played heavily on the psychological horror of the Mothman, focusing on themes of fear, fate, and the supernatural. While it was a Hollywood interpretation, it sparked new interest in the original sightings and the mystery surrounding the collapse of the Silver Bridge. Since then, there have been numerous documentaries, TV specials, and even podcasts delving into the legend. Today, the Mothman has become more than just a cryptid. He's a symbol of the unexplained and the mysterious. Point Pleasant holds an annual Mothman Festival, drawing thousands of visitors who celebrate the legend, the stories, and the enduring questions that surround the creature. So, what was the Mothman? Was it a misidentified bird, an alien, or some kind of supernatural being? Skeptics argue that the sightings were caused by local wildlife or mass hysteria, while others believe there's something more to the story. Maybe the Mothman is a harbinger of doom, a creature tied to catastrophe, or maybe it's just a reflection of our deepest fears. Whatever the truth is, the Mothman remains one of the most fascinating mysteries in American folklore, a creature that leaves us asking, what do we really know about the unknown? Thanks for watching, and if you've ever had a mysterious sighting of your own, or want to share your thoughts on the Mothman legend, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deep dives into the unexplained.